In the name of God, our Creator, our Redeemer, and the Spirit who is our companion. Amen. We all want to be connected like branches on the vine. In today's gospel reading, Jesus uses that agricultural metaphor, and it is powerful. We want to be connected to other people, and we long to be connected with God. We long for a deep sense of belonging beyond our inherited connections, like family or religious affiliation, or where we happen to have grown up. We want to make our own choices, sometimes creating an entirely new family. We understand the promise of being connected, support, reassurance, love. Being connected to other people gives us a chance to discover ideas and experiences we never would have known without their presence in our lives. Being connected with other people offers us a way to get beyond ourselves, to see through another's eyes. But as there is much promise in our connection, so there is cost. Sometimes that cost is enormous. Being connected either to other people or to God involves risks. One of these risks is vulnerability. Being truly connected means opening up, being known for who we are. Unless you're a narcissist and feel you can do no wrong, the opening up process brings with it uncomfortable doubts and questions. We may sometimes wonder, if I show other people who I really am, will they still accept me? This fear can affect our relationship with God as well. Except in this case, our worry is a bit short-sighted. God already knows us through and through. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. The prophet Jeremiah understood this about the God he proclaimed. Still, those scary passages about judgment and hellfire leave their mark. Will I be known to God and then found wanting? Whenever we distance ourselves from God for fear of judgment, we're forgetting the words and the reality of forgiveness emanating throughout the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. We remember that even on the cross, Jesus forgave his tormentors. How much more does God forgive and cherish us? Another concern is being overwhelmed by our connections. There is risk in making any kind of commitment to another person or to a community. When we make these commitments, we can no longer be passive observers. Things will be expected of us, that we be attentive, that we really listen to one another, that we both receive and give support in concrete, observable ways. Even church life can be challenging. We want to be involved. We want to participate as fully as we can. But sometimes church commitments can overwhelm us without our even knowing it. I see this particularly in memories of the first parish I served as a newly ordained person here in DC. I won't tell you which. It was 43 years ago, and the culture of this parish was demanding for everyone. Their unique confirmation class was required for membership, no exceptions. After that, people were expected to sign up for teaching, which often involved weekends away. You had to be fluent in their unique theological lingo, or you were on the outs. It was hard in that environment to maintain a balance between church and the rest of your life, even for the person in the pew. I am happy to report that the culture of that parish has evolved during the passage of time and different theological leadership. Achieving and maintaining balance in any commitment is difficult. We have to respect our limits of time and energy, sometimes saying no to attractive opportunities. Our relationship with God can seem overwhelming too. Sometimes that's why we may be tempted to try to keep our distance, to keep God at arm's length. And it's not only our concern about being judged. Sometimes we're holding back from accepting God's love. Perhaps we're afraid it may be too much to bear. I remember a young man in another parish I served, let's call him Jim. I'd always admired him because of his sensitivity, his theological curiosity. He attended most of the adult classes I led, and he was always deeply engaged. During one class, we were discussing the Eucharist. I tried not to show how shocked I was when Jim confessed that, although he attended communion services, he never actually got up and received the bread and wine. After class, I asked him about it. He said he just didn't feel worthy enough, good enough. I assured him of God's all-embracing love in which he was definitely included. He said that he knew that intellectually, but something was holding him back from receiving, from taking that next step. I suggested some reading that might encourage Jim to trust his relationship with God, to trust God's all-embracing love. Some time later, I saw him come up to the altar and receive communion. I assumed Jim had resolved his hesitancy and inappropriate feelings of unworthiness. Thankfully, this faithful soul decided to embrace the fullness of God's love. Why do we sometimes hold back from accepting, receiving God's love for us? Because we may be changed, because, as today's gospel puts it, we may be pruned, because we'll no longer even want to nurse our grudges and disappointments, or perhaps because unbelievably, we may finally be content. In today's beautiful gospel passage, Jesus invites his disciples to abide in his love. Abide in me as I abide in you. Abide is such a lovely word, though it's not one we use very much. It calls up a sense of rest, of contentment, peace alongside another. In abiding, there is no demand of doing, just an invitation to be. In abiding, the knots in our hearts are loosed. Yes, being connected has its risks. Life balance can be hard to find. Perhaps the best way to strike that balance is to accept Jesus's invitation to dare to simply abide alongside and within God's all-embracing love. and then to learn to love ourselves. Amen.